drop it, quit it.
I'm so over that.
Didn't finish, and it was fundamental. Leave it, drop it, quit it.
Give it up, babe.
We don't finish, it doesn't even matter.
You gonna finish that?
Of course not.
I'm done here.
Welcome to You Gonna Finish That. I'm Zila.
And I'm Adji.
And this is our podcast where we discuss our long list of unfinished business. So today we have a very special guest who I'm very excited to introduce. It is my best friend, Ita.
What's good, y'all? How you doing?
Yes, and Ita and I have been friends for like 3 years? 4 years?
Yes, I'm glad
4
that
years.
I'm really glad I'm one of the things you didn't quit.
I'm so glad. Yeah, we'll get to my podcast on friendship at a different time. But no, Ita, I would never ever quit you. That was so gay, and I just don't know how to quit you, which is the theme of this podcast. Because today we're going to be talking about quitting heterosexuality. But before we get into that, Ita, do you consider yourself a person who like starts things and easily quits?
I have been for a very long time. That's part of how I got here, of course. But I'm trying to be better at that and be more consistent. So yeah, it's like something I carry, something I'm trying not to carry. So that I want to make sure that in the future when I quit things, it's for a good reason. I'm still going to try things. I'm still going to quit a lot of things, of course. But I want to make sure I'm in control of it, you know?
That's very, very true. Yeah.
That's so real.
Well, I'm glad you quit a lot of things because it makes you the perfect person for this podcast. I definitely
An
feel
esteemed guest.
Say that again, Adji.
I said an esteemed guest.
An esteemed guest. Hey, if this goes well, we'll invite you back. No. But yeah.
No, definitely. You're like there's going to be too much on the cutting room floor for you not to invite me back.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
let's just get into it. So, basically, we're going to be talking about quitting heterosexuality, something a lot of people quit for very good reasons, for myriads of reasons. Adji, how
Quit.
did you, know in your heart and soul that you were ready to give that shit up?
Yeah, quit it like a bad habit. It was definitely a process. I think when I was young in like middle school, I didn't really have the words for it or like understanding of there wasn't any like openly gay people like around.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I remember I was probably like a preteen when I even learned what like being gay was, you know?
Real.
So I didn't have the language for it. And like, even when I did figure out what it was, I never thought to be like, oh, like, is this you, you know? So like I had, and it's confusing, right? Like have all of these like, it's like I have a crush on a girl because that's something that, and not even that the crushes weren't real, but it's just like, there's this expectation like, oh, who do you like? And it's like,
Yeah, totally.
and it never occurred to me that like I could like a guy, you know?
Mm.
So definitely was a journey. Had like interest in guys, but didn't really like know what that was. And then by the time I got to high school, I think I was like, okay, like I'm thinking this might be me. These feelings I thought might be a phase aren't quite going away.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, maybe I'm bi. So I came out as bi, I think when I was like 15 to just my like close friends.
Real.
So I was like, also like I wasn't the most masculine person I've ever been, you know. So I'm
Nothing wrong
like,
with that.
So you need an excuse.
yeah. I'm like maybe the bisexuality will clear up some of the confusion around why I am the way I am. I don't know. And then I was like, actually, no, that's not like ringing true for me. So I was like, okay, like I think I am gay.
That's so real.
So that's kind of like the journey of like, I guess internally, like me realizing it.
Yeah. I remember we came out to each other at the same time.
Yeah,
When-
that was kind of
that's
crazy.
incredible.
Yeah. I had, in college, I had started to come out as bisexual, which I pretty much am, bi-pan. But I was coming out to people as bisexual only when I was drunk. Like, every time, or pretty much every time I got drunk, it was like, hey, everybody, I have an announcement.
Did you hear the good news?
And it was like, Zila, you already told us this last week, but so that was how I had started coming out, because I've always known. I think I think I was telling you the other day, I remember specifically writing in my journal when I was a preteen, if I'm gay, I'm only probably 7% gay, if anything, which was just my way of trying to I knew it was there. But...
Yeah.
Good at quitting, terrible at math.
Yeah. Literally. So, so I remember one day I was hungover, but I wasn't drunk. And I feel like you may have been the first person I came out to, sober. When I was hungover.
Okay, because I was like, you definitely weren't drunk when you called me.
No, I wasn't, but it was after drinking, and maybe I had thought about it or something, but I remember I was like, hey, I want to tell you something, I'm bisexual, and you said, me too, and I was like, whoa, it felt like a very good moment, even though...
Yeah, it was kind of crazy, because when you called me, I didn't, I obviously didn't know what you were going to say, but there was no hesitation with me, saying it back. And I didn't feel, nervous or, it didn't even really feel like a big emotional moment. It was just kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because also, I had no idea.
Also, it allowed you to beat the drunk bisexual allegations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there you
exactly.
go. For sure. I was really coming into my own.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I wanted to ask, what do you think the hardest parts were for coming out, and maybe what were the easiest?
For me, hardest part was and this is still kind of an ongoing but this idea that when you're young you have this idea of what your future will be, and then when you realize that it will look nothing like that, it's almost like you have to mourn the death of this future that you've built in your head. And I don't think I came to terms with that till much later. I was like, okay, I didn't think about what that would feel like or what that meant. But yeah, I just remember being I think the the day I tried to come out at school, it's actually really funny. We had a dress down day, we didn't have to wear a uniform, and I wore a rainbow bandana. And
this was high school?
I was like, yeah. And I'm a little bit I love attention, I always have.
No, that's how we know you're gay. You love attention. You can't get enough of it.
And I literally no one addressed it. No one cared. It was so anticlimactic.
And what's the point?
Literally, I was like, okay, yeah, one, probably everybody was like, okay, yeah, we get it. You didn't have to tell us. But and it was funny because my friend who then became my roommate was like, oh, is that a gay thing? And I was like, yeah, I'm gay. And he was like, cool. And later on, I found out that he did not hear what I said. He just kind of was like, okay.
Amazing. Your coming out was so anticlimactic.
Yeah. It was kind of a big old waste. But it was nice because it wasn't a big thing, it could have very easily turned traumatic, but it kind of was a nothing day, and felt like it really quickly normalized me being gay, because it was
Nice. Ita, what about you? When did you know in your heart that you were ready to quit heterosexuality?
Okay, so there's a lot of stages to this, because it was first coming out as bisexual, understanding that was the truth for me, and then coming out as trans, which was another hurdle I had to go through. But I think that it's interesting how it started, because I remember when I started working out regularly and browsing fitness forums, you start paying a lot more attention to the male body. And look, I feel like this is just a basic fact of life. You go to the gym, you're gay. That's just what happens, because you're gonna get obsessed with the details.
The homoeroticism of a gym setting is truly
cannot be denied.
Astronomical.
Cannot be denied.
Yeah.
So that was I think the first consistent inkling I had, and I think that in the environment I had, though I knew that gay people and trans people existed, it always seemed like an other thing, a thing that was never going to apply to me, and. My parents were not necessarily not supportive, but they weren't necessarily the most supportive. And even though I always saw the gay people around me, it was like, okay, do your thing, but that's not for me. But then, one of the twinks comes to my D&D games, and I'm just like, okay, everybody else is cool with this. Maybe I should try this. I ask him out, make out with him for the first time, and that's when I know that yeah, that's this is kind of nice. I want to do this more.
Yeah.
So then I told my friends I'm bisexual, and I remember that like I told my mom a little bit later, and one of the funny things that she asked me at a meeting after I told her, because she was like largely supportive, but she has been supportive through all the coming outs I've done. But well, the first thing she told me was like, "Oh, so does that mean you're gonna do a bunch of BDSM now?" And it's like, Mom, I've been doing that for a while. It's not because I'm bisexual. Trust me.
No, your mom is like a really cool person.
Yeah, no, she has been putting in the work. I really appreciate her for that. But yeah, so that was the bisexual bit, and it was
wait, before you move on, when you asked the twink out, was your intention like as a date, or was it like, oh, just hang out?
Because that's a
like, did you already kind of know?
I don't know. I think that at the time I wanted it to be a date, but I was too afraid to like say that out loud. So I just thought that like since he was already out, like that like he might like already assume that. Like I was kind of like expecting him to do all of the work, and honestly, this is just a part. This is just like a sign that I was in the egg for a long time, anyways. Like but like yeah, I just expected him to do like to make the move, and ultimately I made the move, and it's like turned out a lot differently than I ultimately expected. So that was basically what I thought there.
It's so interesting because I feel like where Adji was talking about how we grew up in a small town in Illinois, so we didn't see a lot of openly gay people. But you grew up in New York, so I'm curious, like, were you in a lot of queer communities when you were growing up, or it would not really?
Queer communities were like around, but they were never the places that I hung out with, because just period. I didn't really have that many like friends, like especially in high school.
Yeah.
But like I did have like a lot of like people I hung out with like all the way up until middle school. But those were like the queer stuff was very like away. It was like something that was very sequestered from me.
Got it.
Which like and one thing you gotta know about growing up in New York, like there's a lot of different communities here, but it means that there's a lot of overlap, but it's also kind of easy to be in your own little space.
Bubbles, yeah.
Yeah. So there were queer communities, but it was very something that was very removed from like what I thought my experience could be.
Noted. So, talk about, you said coming out as trans.
Yeah. So it was around it was in the last 5 years actually that I started hanging out with a lot more dykes, and I felt really comfortable there, and I wasn't really sure why, but this is basically compounded on a lot of other instances where I didn't really adhere to the guy mold. And of course, there's a lot of toxic masculinity in how we perceive guys at base, but even as I was trying to figure out how to be a guy in a way that was different from that, it never really felt right to me. It was never really something I could really enmesh with. And when I was hanging out with these dykes, I was like, okay, yeah, this feels comfortable. And one point that really kind of that really cut across me is I remember I was in a house with with a bunch of the dykes, and there was this bug that was on the ceiling, and they were all scared of smacking it down, and I just decided to smack it down and throw it in the trash, and they called me, oh yeah, you're the house dyke, and I'm just like, wow, that feels really correct. That feels really good. That feels way too good to just ignore that. So
amazing.
A bunch of other conversations with some other queers that I knew, and it started out with changing my pronouns to they, and then it was eventually they, she, and then finally where I'm at now is she, they. That might change in the future. I don't fucking know. One of the glorious things about this is that you can quit pronouns too.
You really can.
You can quit pronouns.
Awesome.
They tell you can't, but you definitely can.
Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them.
Exactly. So after that, it's I tell people that the updates kind of go really smoothly because I'm already hanging out with a lot of trans people. So nice. It's they are very accepting of that. And the pronouns just keep updating. I get on fucking HRT, and now
we love to see it.
Yes. So now I've quit being the slim and kind of jacked guy to being the absolutely massive muscle girl in front of you right now.
Yes. We love to see the glow up.
I love
it's
that.
Amazing.
I have gone from the tiny twink to the muscle girl you see in front of you before you.
I love how you're
it's
doing your politician
literally
the
motivational speaker, okay?
Yeah.
This is a goodwill tour.
Well, thank you so much for gracing us. I definitely wanted to ask a bit about, the tough parts of quitting. Because, quitting heterosexuality and quitting being cis is, an experience that is so tough. So, like, what were the hardest parts? But then, what were the easiest parts? What was relieving?
I think, honestly, there's a lot of difficult parts and difficult phases. Sometimes it's like, accepting that this is something that applies to you instead of like this just kind of like abstract fantasy. Because like, a lot of things like contributed to me thinking it was a fantasy. A lot of like the portrayals of media, a lot of the like distance of the people that I knew, characters like Unique in Glee. Being just so like
can you update us for the non-Glee?
Okay, so
my friends are gonna kill me.
Okay, so here's the thing. I saw Glee as it aired when I was like in high school, and at one point there's like a black character who like has like a kind of like femme person who is male bodied but has a femme persona called Unique.
Okay.
And that's basically like the closest to a trans character that I had, even though she's not really trans. It's more like a drag thing ultimately. Yeah. But of course, it's Glee, so they're not really gonna do this.
They're giving it such sensitive and care.
Exactly. They're gonna be like it's gonna have nuance to it. But yeah, so the thing about that portrayal is that like, something that I was talking about with my friends recently is that like I think that it demonstrated that being trans is not a real thing. It is an abstraction, a fantasy, something that only happens in like controlled or fictional environments, or like something that's very distant from me. It's not something that I could actually engage with in my real life. And it wasn't until like I started hanging out with a lot of trans people regularly that it like was like, oh yeah, this is something that could like, actually do, that's actually accessible, that I actually can like push through. So that was a huge hurdle. And I think the other two difficult parts, like, and this like coalesced around the as I was like, changing the pronouns and going through that, was trying to get on HRT, because contrary to a lot of the people I've spoken to who have like different perceptions, it is not actually easy to get HRT. It's actually difficult. You have to like really push for that. Yeah. And there might be some people watching, maybe there aren't, who like might think that things like soy feminize you. I wish it was that easy. Like, do you know how fucking much easier it would be if I could get HRT through just like soy milk instead of like having to get like fucking prescription and injections and shit like that? Literally. I would be drinking so much soy and my tits would be out to here. I would not have to worry.
America doesn't want you to know that soy milk would be flying off the shelf.
Exactly. It's like, honestly, it's a missed business opportunity, but like, they're not ready to sell that because they're not like, they don't have the entrepreneurial mindset.
Right.
The marketers need to get on their Zoom.
Listen.
They really do. But like, yeah, so it's that, and also coming out to my parents. Mom, I came out to before my dad, but like getting them to accept that this is who I am now was like a bit of a hurdle, because like they always have the like black things like, oh yeah, you can be gay, but why would you quote unquote choose to be? Because reminder, you can be able to choose to be gay, and you should be able to choose to be gay. Fair. It's fine. Like, we're talking about putting these things. We chose that shit.
Right.
So, like, one of the things that, like, I have another tangent about this. One of the things that I, like, kind of loathe is, like, how a lot of the rhetoric around homosexuality and, like, queerness in general has been around, oh, yeah, you didn't choose this. And, like, to a certain degree, you were born, and, like, to a certain degree, that is true, but it's, like, it's not the only option. If you want to choose to be queer, you should be able to choose to be queer.
Right. Like, gatekeep much?
Exactly. Because, like, how else, like, if you don't experiment with those kind of things, how are you supposed to truly know?
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, totally.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, they were on that shit, like, they were like, oh, yeah, why would you choose to be, like, you're already black, like, why would you, like, choose to be, like queer? And it's like, yeah, not, like, so it was difficult, but my mom was very accepting. My dad, somewhat accepting. The last thing I'll say about this is that when I first told him that I was trans, which was relatively recently, he told me that he believed that the reason why I was trans is because when my mom was carrying me, that she got some undue stress. She thinks that all queer kids are born from moms who went through stress while they were carrying them. And he specifically thought that my mom had gotten stressed from a moment where she ate some apparently bad Thai food when she was carrying me and got temporarily blind for a few seconds, and that's why I'm queer. So,
that's
we figured it out now.
Wait, there's so much to unpack there. First of all, the Thai food made her blind.
It was for 2 seconds. It was like literally temporary.
Well, it's called the blink.
Oh, God. I'm mad I didn't think of that first.
But oh my god, that's really wild. And I also like how he blamed a woman for making you gay.
Yeah,
It's
no,
just, like, a lot of
obviously,
layers
like
of
the
things.
reason
Could've been
why.
him.
Yeah, no, not at all, not at all. It couldn't have been him for the autism either, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. But yeah. And yeah, well, what do you want to say about, like, was any part of quitting not difficult, or like, you know?
I think that fortunately, I had a lot of like friends who were already trans, queer, gay, whatever the case may be. So that was at least easy to find that to find like groups who would understand that aspect of myself. Easy things was like, just like once I actually was on HRC, like experiencing those changes, like, just like trying to getting to a point where embracing the pronouns, settling down the pronouns, and just like, I think that the easiest part has just been, except and again, I may be I may be a unique case with this. I'm not saying that every trans person is going to go through this, but at this point in my life, I feel very comfortable with my body. I feel like it's getting to a point that I've always imagined it could be, and that has been, it's been a journey. But settling into that has been very easy, and I feel like it's much easier to move through life now that I accept the fullness of who I am than it would be to try and move through life with these layers between myself and who I am.
Oh, for sure. Well said. Well spoken.
Real, so real. What would you both say to someone who is having a hard time quitting heterosexuality?
Yeah. Put it down. Put it down. We love you. No. I feel like you say a lot that, and you said recently that we shouldn't belittle how difficult it is to quit heterosexuality, and all the myriad ways of how dangerous it can be, how scary it can be, how uncomfortable. And but that being said, it's so freeing. There's something so freeing about knowing that you can live authentically and not have to be constricted and feel like this heavy, suffocating weight. And you can have communities in which you feel completely affirmed, and just knowing that you're living the way that you are meant to be living. I think it can't be understated. But yeah, I'm curious to know what you think.
I know that for a lot of people, it's going to be they're going to be in situations where it is not, they face more hurdles towards quitting heterosexuality. Everybody else around you is on it. Everybody else is very deeply addicted to it, and they can't let it go. They still think that there are only two genders. They still think that now it's kind of law that there are only two genders, or one gender if you're up on the biology of it. But it's I understand that there's going to be a lot of people who are going in difficult situations with this. But what I will say is that as she said, there's a lot of value towards acknowledging your true self. And I think that even if you can't acknowledge it in public, you should acknowledge it on some level, whether it's joining that Stellaris Discord, or whether it's just finding a queer community, other queers around you who maybe they're also in the closet, maybe they're also hiding from something, but just find some way to acknowledge that within yourself, because the shadow of the closet is far crueler than the light of visibility. And whether that visibility is you stepping out in front of everybody else, or just stepping out in front of a few people that you trust, the light it can be scary, but it's also just far more rewarding than the shadows of the closet. So I would say
Profound.
Just find a way to do it.
Bars. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That was very, very touching. It means a lot. Do you have anything you'd like to say, Adji?
I was also I'm echoing that. I think it's so important to be in community with other queer people, even if you yourself at the time don't identify as queer. Because I think back to being in high school, and my friend group, none of us were queer and did not acknowledge that we were queer to each other, but it's an energy. It is that energy is permissive to then, claim it later on in life when you're ready. But being with people who make you feel comfortable,
Totally.
Being yourself and in not putting on all the masks that you put maybe in larger groups. That's I think an important step in moving closer to who you living your truth, who you really are.
Real.
Mm.
Also very well said. Thank you.
Hmm.
All right.
Very correct with that.
Yeah. So should we move into
Get into our
All right. So we have a segment called This Week Unfinished,
Mhm.
where basically we just chat briefly about something this week that we have not finished and maybe we never will, or maybe we want to pick it up or something.
Mm.
So I'll give you a minute to think about that. But do you
I know, I
start?
actually
you
already
already
have,
know?
I have
Okay.
it. I have
okay.
it.
Go.
So
go.
I think the thing for me is that like so I'm in the process of writing a book.
Yes.
Like look, she's read it. She
It's
seems to
so
like it. I don't know why.
good. Oh my god. No, it's really talented writing.
What's the premise? What's the premise? Do you have like a pitch line?
Okay, so how much of this can I share? It's like it's basically sci-fi. It's
Okay.
basically like black people, where people like exist under under this empire that's colonizing the place where they're originally from. That's all I'll say about it for now, because I
Okay.
do still want to
Yeah.
craft this more definitely before I get out in the open. But yeah, apparently people like it, so like hopefully it'll be something that everybody else can read soon. But the reason why it's relevant is because I had a section that I was writing this past week, and I had to quit it for a bit because my phone got smashed,
Oh, yeah.
and I had to get a new one because I usually spend a lot of time writing it while I'm on the job. Yeah, so hopefully none of my managers are seeing this, but but yeah, so I
Grind set.
yes, this is the real grind set,
Yeah.
people. But so yeah, there's our segments I still need to finish, and I still need to continue, and I'm going to pick that back up because this is one of the few first any quitting of this is temporary. I think that
For
this thing that needs to exist. I need to finish it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna get back to that, and hopefully eventually y'all will be able to see finished copies of it.
Hell
I'm so excited.
yeah.
That's also so real, this idea that there's a story inside you that you just need to get out. Like,
Yeah.
I 100%
Exactly.
like that resonates.
So real. What about
Yeah.
you, Adji? You got to unfinish.
I started a book, and I won't say reading because I was listening to the audiobook. I have
That's fine.
the sample of it. So
Oh.
I
Okay. All right.
You're on
I
brand for
like-
the podcast at least.
was like, okay, because listen, I need to get out of the habit of buying books I know I can't commit to. So I was like, let me just
That's
like
fair.
get so I started listening to the audiobook. Also didn't finish that. The thing is, it is I actually don't even know the genre it's headed. I want to say sci-fi. It's giving like ancient Greece vibes, but in a
Okay.
world where
So it's
there's,
very
like,
gay.
Yeah.
strong, and there's like I think a strong like hierarchy or like caste system almost. But because the names of things are so like out there, I can't I need to be able to see it. So the audiobook just wasn't working for me.
That's real.
So I'm not completely off it, but I do think I need to actually read it because it's not something that like when listening I can't really like
Visual.
process what's going on.
Heard. I respect that. I truly do.
Mhm.
Last week's This Week's Unfinished was a book, and this week it's a new book. Very on brand. So I started a book about sleep called The Sleep Revolution. I got it at the Goodwill. But it's all about how we need to be getting better sleep. And I'm very convinced because I slept real good this morning. And I canceled all my plans this week so that I could get some
There you go.
rest.
See, that's the lesson you need to learn from the sleep revolution.
Exactly. But it's
Yeah.
very important. It affects all of our physical, mental, and emotional well-being very deeply. Just like, people know this a lot, but like not sleeping it's the equivalent to being drunk. And we just like do
Yeah.
it all the time. So
We also
Yeah.
drink a lot all the time, so
yeah, that's
Yeah,
very
I'm down
real.
bad.
Both problems. So yeah,
I saw something that was like when you don't get good sleep, like you have cognitive decline, but unlike other areas where you experience cognitive decline, like when you have it due to a lack of sleep, like you do not perceive the cognitive decline. And I often find myself
Right.
having like brain fog almost because I'm often like up very late. And I'm like, what's going on? Like, do I have mold in the place? Like, am I not getting the
exactly.
vitamins? But
And
I think it is the sleep.
it's the sleep. The lady in the book was saying like she was going on like 3 or 4 hours of sleep every night, and then just blacked out and fell and cracked her cheekbone. And and then she went to the doctor. She's like, "What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?" And they're like, "You just need more sleep. It is a vital human function. We're just treating it like
Right.
I know you don't get enough sleep, and I'm really concerned about it. I'm going to talk to you about this after.
Oh, wait. That got really real. Me?
Yeah.
Attack podcast now.
Sorry.
Whoa,
I'm just
whoa.
worried about you because I know you don't sleep.
Oh.
I get really influenced by things that I read immediately.
No, I appreciate that, and also you're very right. Especially when you're exercising, sleep is important. You can't do recomp for your muscles unless you sleep properly, which is very hard for me because I work out. I like working out a lot, but if I am doing it too much, I may not get as much sleep, which means that the muscles recomp slower, and it's a whole frustrating thing. So yes, if you want the gains, you have to sleep.
And muscle mommy
Type
spoke,
shit.
so yes. All right.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Ita, for joining us.
It was
It's been a pleasure.
splendid to be here with you guys. I cannot wait to come back the next time because you definitely are going to invite me because I was probably one of your best guests.
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been the You Can Finish That podcast. I'm Adji.
And I'm Zila.
And I'm Ita.
And yeah, we'll see you next week. If you care to connect with us on social media, you can follow us at You Gonna Finish That Pod. And thank you for joining and listening.
Bye.
Bye.